Now, one of the joys that I have doing this job is getting the chance to have fairly regular conversations with a lady by the name of Honey Langcaster-James. She's our TV psychologist, and she's brilliant. She's on the line now. Hi, Honey.
Hi. Oh, that was quite a nice welcome. It's lovely to speak to you again.
Talking about parents this time, because it seems that, we talk an awful lot about the sacrifices that parents make for their children. Just recently I heard of a couple who, because they couldn't get their son into the right school because they lived outside the area, they sold a house that they'd been in for like 25, 30 years and moved into a house that they really didn't like, purely and simply because they thought, well, their child's future is more important than the aesthetics of where we live. That's a massive thing.
Yes, that's right. I mean, basically, there's been some recent research that was published by YOPA. They actually surveyed families and parents in particular, and they found that a very high number of parents will actually move because they're worried about the area that they live in for their children. The number one concern that they highlighted was the crime rate. So people tend to worry about, are my children going to be exposed to drugs or fall into the wrong crowd? Those are the kinds of concerns parents have. And they will, it seems anyway, look for areas that they think are going to offer their children, a safe, secure place to live in and to grow up. And those seem to be the kind of things that are important to them. But certainly the survey by YOPA showed that there were other things they were concerned about as well now in modern Britain, such as things like pollution, even accident statistics, road traffic accidents, the number of green spaces, parks available, GP surgeries. And so it's quite fascinating, the kinds of things that parents are saying that they're really, that matter to them when they're choosing somewhere to live. And I was really quite excited to learn that what YOPA did about this was they actually devised the first search tool, where parents now, or anybody, can actually look for these different factors when they're looking for somewhere to live, instead of, maybe the usual online search tools where you can put in the parameters of your price range and that's about it, maybe a sort of certain mile radius.
Sure. What
they're saying is actually we're going to use this data and we're going to give people the opportunity to put in the factors that matter to them, whether that is low crime rate area, whether it's lots of green space or whatever. And you can put all these different factors in the tool, and it will then suggest areas to you that you should be looking in that you might never even have thought of. Because typically we tend to look in the areas that we know, or we know someone there, and actually we don't always know enough about the area. So research, I think, is key.
Now, on top of that, though, I mean, Ofsted and how well a school is going, I know some people say, oh, I need the child to at least be in a school that's progressive and that could get the child where he or she needs to be before heading off to college. I always kind of, and I don't know whether it's just because my education seemed to be, I was just pushed out the door and then they kept their fingers tightly crossed. That was pretty much as far as it went with my parents. But I don't think at any point back in the day would there be any discussion of like where you lived. It would be, where's he going to live? We're staying here. But I think it's a wonderful thing that parents are prepared to go the extra yard for their kids these days.
Well, it certainly seems that way. It certainly seems that the modern British parent, anyway, is thinking about where they want to live in terms of where offers a safe, secure environment for their children to be brought up.
Sure.
And I think that's a good thing, because we do need to be concerned about those kinds of things. You want your children to be able to play out, or at least to be able to take them to a local park. You want your children to be in a school where they're not, where the class sizes are not so horrendous that they're not getting the teaching attention that they need. And I think that's what this is reflective of, that British parents today are saying, actually, what really matters to us now is more than just the house. It's more than just the basic facilities. It's also about, where is my child going to be socialised? Who are they going to be mixing with?
Right.
And can I feel safe and secure as a parent that my kids are going to be growing up in an area that I feel happy with?
Mind you, there's still a lot of worry out there, especially on the side of parents. It seems, One is about job prospects, because everybody knows we're moving into a period of economic uncertainty. That's an understatement, because nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. I gather a lot of parents are really, really terribly worried about how they're going to be doing and how that would show itself with the children, because obviously if they don't have as much money coming in, something has to give.
Yes, I think that's right. And I think these kind of economically uncertain times do make parents think, what can we actually afford, and what compromises might we need to make? But what I think was interesting actually about Yopa's research was the fact that what they highlighted was that the number one thing they were concerned about were things about the security of the environment, a low crime rate, for example. So that indicates to me that while economic concerns are obviously a factor for people, when they have to consider what they can get for the money that they have available to them, what they're actually thinking about first and foremost is a safe and secure environment rather than that extra bedroom or that ensuite bathroom. The things that really count to them are about what they can provide their children.
No, absolutely. It's just one of the downsides, and I saw the report from Yopa, and one of the facts in there said that only 12% of parents in our part of the world think that their children will be financially better off than they are. That's dark.
It's a very worrying. Yes, it's worrying. I mean, I'm a parent of two young adult children myself. One of whom has just graduated from university. And it is a concern for parents. Yes, and it is a concern for parents because, of course, what we're all thinking, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, is how are my kids going to get themselves on the property ladder? How are they going to find their way in the world? Where are they going to be able to find work where they can actually afford to buy a home? And of course, that is a really big concern for parents today. Even when their children are still young, I think now they're thinking not only about saving up for college, but often they're thinking, well, am I going to be able to help them, maybe with that first deposit or something that's actually becoming very, very difficult for young people. So I do think that's something that's very prevalent today for parents that perhaps wasn't so much an issue 50, 60 years ago.
Something that surprised me, mind, because again, you hear that on certain occasions there are children that, due to either bullying or due to just not fitting into a school, which sometimes happens. Homeschooling has always kind of been an option, but it surprised me that up to 25%, which is a chunk of people, would be prepared to quit their job to homeschool if they felt that the schooling their child was getting wasn't up to the mark.
Yes, that's right. I mean, I think that's an interesting statistic because I do think that the interest in homeschooling is on the increase. Part of that, I think, is that people see it as an option now. What with the kind of connected world that we live in, you've got access to internet resources and lots of sort of educational, activities that you can do. But I do think it's a shame when parents think that that's their only option to perhaps allay their fears that they might have about the environment that their children are going to school in, because one of the things that they can do, of course, especially now with Yopa's new tool, is they can actually look for the kinds of things that they're concerned about, whether that's that they want their children to be mixing with people in an area where, as we said, with low crime rates or whatever, and instead of immediately thinking, well, actually, I'm not happy with this area or I'm not happy with this school, I'm going to take them out of school and homeschool them, which for some people that might be the right option, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I do think it's great that we now have these other tools, so you've got these other ways of coping as well.
And there are also people talking about the possibility if the job they were in wasn't making as much money as they needed to look after their children properly, they're prepared to either change jobs or get a second job.
Yes, I think that is very reflective of how the modern parent really does see it as, quite a challenge for them to provide their children with what they feel they need. And they're prepared to go that extra mile. They're prepared to take on extra hours or an extra job if that's what they feel is going to sort of solve their concerns, really.
Yeah, I have to ask, though, I mean, you've just mentioned that your youngsters recently graduated, which is fantastic. How's she
Yeah,
going to...
just yesterday.
That's brilliant.
My son just graduated yesterday.
That was tremendous. So how's he going to follow in your footsteps when you've got more letters after your name than the average eye chart?
Actually, it was funny. Yes, he was very, very proud of his new letters after his name. But I did say to him, "Well, what are you going to do next? Are you going to go for some more?" He doesn't think so. He's going into a different field altogether. He's not going into the family business. So.
Well, that's brilliant. Hey, well, congratulations to him. Bottom line here, if people are concerned or they're thinking, I do live in a place like that where the negative temptations are too easily on the ground in this area, and let's face it, there's plenty of them around. What should people do? I mean, does everyone have to move, or because there seems to be no fighting that undercurrent? Because once they're in that world, it's harder to get them out of it. It's easier for them to get them out before they get into that, I suppose.
Well, it is. That's true. I mean, to me, I think that the number one thing that parents who are concerned about maybe the environment they're living in, or the locality that they're raising their children, or maybe they're thinking of starting a family and they're wanting to do that in an area where they think for the future that's going to be the right place for them. I would say the number one tip is to do your research, and that's where something like Yopa's home family tool comes in really handy. You can just go on the website and say, right, these are the things that are really important to me as a parent. Where might this, work? And they will come up with all these great locations that you perhaps have never even considered that you can look at. So rather than just thinking, oh, well, we've always lived in this particular county, or we've got family here, you're actually thinking in terms of the factors that really matter to you. So I suppose my number one advice would be to go to the website and try that out for yourself. It's just at yopa.co.uk/family. And you can use the tool. You can find out more about the research as well. Yopa are going to be sharing more details from their copious research findings over the next week or so on all their social media channels as well. So there's a lot of talk about this, and I think it's really great that people are talking about it, because, of course, we can't always move. That's true. We can't do that. But it's certainly, if you are maybe a young family and you're thinking about the future, this is the kind of thing to do, is to do your research about those things like crime rates, like road accident rates, like green spaces that we know psychologically are really good for your well-being and great for children growing up, and think ahead, really. So, that's what I would advise.
Wonderful. Honey Lancaster-James, always a joy. Thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.
Oh, it's such a pleasure as always.